Hello, my name is Anthony Andrews, co-founder and creative director of We Are Parable, and in association with Leytonstone Loves Film and the Barbican, we present The Film Studio. The Film Studio is a series of talks designed for you to explore different industries within the film sector, from film marketing to film journalism, from PR to diversity and inclusion. We want to show you different ways and how you could work within the film industry. So to that end, we've got a number of the industry experts and previous collaborators that we've worked with to show you exactly how you do that. First up, we have Akua Gyamfi. Akua is the founder of the British Blacklist, a database dedicated to Black British creatives. And we find out more about how she got started, her first role, and what advice she has for budding creatives trying to get into the film industry. So Akua, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Thanks so much for being part of the film studio. This is quite a unique situation because normally you're the one who's asking the questions and everyone's answering them from you. So I feel quite privileged that I am now on the other side of the seat interviewing you. So this is really cool. So the main point of the film studio is about exploring some of the careers within film industry, that people are working in that, potentially people outside of the film industry didn't know about. So really wanted to speak to you and really understand your experience within film and TV. Just give us a really sort of brief introduction into who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Akua Gyamfi, founder of the British Blacklist, which is a creative platform that showcases the work of British Black, primarily creatives who work across screen, stage, literature and sound. And it started as a database really kind of inspired by IMDb, where I just felt there was a lack of visibility of the talent doing stuff in the creative arts. And I thought it was about time that we had something of our own that we could it was literally just for us, to be honest. And then actually, as time went on, I realized that the industry needed this because there's this whole thing about not being able to find talent and stuff like that. So the visibility platform, as I kind of nicknamed it, was a combination of the database and the editorial platform. And it's just celebrating all things people are doing in the creative arts.
What kind of work do you do on a day-to-day basis? Can you tell us a little bit about that? How does the database come together? What responsibilities do you have when it comes to putting the database together?
So the database at the moment is on a break because we're rebuilding it to come back a bit bigger and better, because there has been such high demand in recent years for more visibility of creative talent that Black, specifically British Black creative talent, we're trying to just do something that's a bit more robust and can handle the weight of expectation. But my daily is a combination of editorial journalism, which is latest industry news. We've got things like we review loads of things, and we have interviews, which is one of our primary features, is that we talk to loads of creatives in front of and behind the scenes. So my daily thing is just trying to manage my schedule as best I can, which I fail at pretty often, but it's just trying to make sure that I've got some current news going on, some current reviews going on, and some current interviews.
Fantastic. Now, I'm going to go all the way back for a second, because we kind of reconnected in 2014 when we were doing an event, and we just randomly bumped into each other. Then we found out that you did the British Blacklist, and we started collaborating much more after that time. But we actually go further back than that, because we met on a writing course for the Royal Court. So I'm quite interested to find out about your entry point into this world of film, TV, stage, and I guess what your entry point, reference point was when you decided that this might be something that might be a career. Like, what was that point for you?
It was on the back of doing my journalism degree. So my first role was at the BBC. Even though I had dreams of working at a magazine, I actually got my first job. Actually, no, that's a lie. My first role was at Channel U, then known as Channel AKA. So it was a grime music station. So I kind of had a love of the arts in general. TV, everything to do with music, film, TV and everything. But I didn't really know where I was going to go. So I was trying to find my journalism feet, actually, if I'm honest. And then afterwards, I started working at the BBC. And my second role at the BBC was at BBC Writers' Room. And I've always actually loved writing, and English was always my strongest lesson. That for all the messing about in the world, I couldn't fail at English. So I thought somewhere about something to do with writing and journalism was what I had interest in. And working at BBC Writers' Room, that's where the BBC receives all their scripts, most of their scripts. They do loads of competitions and stuff like that, and to find new writers. And being there, working under Kate Rowland, who ran that department at the time, was really inspiring and eye-opening. And seeing loads of scripts come through, I started, get a chance to read scripts. It wasn't confined to just TV. It was all kinds of scripts, all kinds of writing. So that's when, I don't know how, but somehow I came across the Royal Court writers scheme. So I thought, actually, let me try my hand at writing. And I wasn't sure whether I was a screenwriter or a theatre writer. And I actually, to be fair, I didn't even know the difference at the time. So I just thought, let's take on this course and see what happens. I quickly discovered that if I was going to write, I'd be a screenwriter. But the course was really helpful and really eye-opening, and it taught me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, so just in that, I mean, do you still write now? Is it something that you still flex, you still try and flex that muscle where you can?
Yeah, when I can, but I don't have any time. British Blacklist takes all my time. I have about 3 scripts that are in different stages of non-completion, but I have lots of ideas. But yeah, I hope to get back to writing, but it's all about getting this platform running really smoothly and having a great team that runs it, so I can just swan in and give orders and leave and go and write.
That's the dream right there. That is absolutely the dream. So tell me about, one of the first jobs you had was at the BBC. Now, obviously, it's a huge organisation to kind of start your career from. Can you tell us about that experience and how that opportunity came up for you?
So actually, I had finished my run at Channel U, and then a friend of mine, she'd been at the BBC for a while, and she literally just said, look, there's a job going, because she knew I needed a job. I just needed something quite quickly. And she said, there's a job at BBC. And without thinking about it, I just applied. And now this was for the BBC Performing Arts Fund. Now this department, you used to receive money from, and I can't remember, not Pop Idol? Was it Pop Idol? That was on BBC? I can't remember.
The Academy, Fame Academy.
Fame Academy, that's it.
Yeah.
So from Fame Academy, that's where it got its funding. So from all the phone calls that people made to vote for the winners and stuff, that money was put into the Performing Arts Fund. And basically it was a fund that gave bursaries to budding creatives. Basically, BBC application forms are quite hard, but for some reason, I just approached it blindly, just applied, went in and got the interview, got the job. That was my first go. It hadn't been so easy in subsequent attempts at getting different jobs in different departments, but that one, I don't know. I mean, the stars aligned, and it was just that, and just got my first job, and it was my first kind of formal admin role, and really interesting.
What did you take away from that very first role? Like, what were some of the things that you learned in that role, and how have you carried that forward to subsequent roles in your career?
It was definitely the admin side of things, how to construct a decent email, how to definitely using formal email structures and organization planning, diary management. I was a PA to the woman who ran the department, so having to manage someone else's diary and being responsible for someone else's schedule, those are some of the things that I learned. And when you go through the BBC, you do get that kind of stock training that it helps, and I apply it to everything I do today, because it was an admin role. It's all those type of things that I learned, and organisation skills. I'm not the greatest at organisation, but if I didn't have that training, I don't know where I'd be. So I definitely benefited from that.
So you've gone from the BBC, and then I don't think we've spoken about how you've kind of pivoted to film journalism. Like, how did that shift take place? So you've done your journalism degree. You're starting to read more scripts, being in the BBC writers' room. How did you sort of marry the two, to the journalism degree, of all the experience of journalism that you have, to you starting to read more scripts and read more stories? How did you bring those two things together and think, actually, this might be something that I could do?
Way before blogs and sites became a thing, I used to help with a friend with a blog, and I think it's called UCase. Shout out Shania. And then a friend of mine had a magazine, like an online magazine called Candy, and I helped edit that. So though BBC was very admin, and wasn't really in the areas that I wanted to in regards to journalism, I was exploring like the TV side and film side on that with like scripts when I moved to a different department. So working with loads of other kind of small online blogs, I just felt like there was something missing when it came to not seeing British Black creatives doing loads of work in like broad mainstream magazines and newspapers. So I thought something's missing here. And I always had my favourite magazine growing up was the Source magazine, the Source and Vibe. And I really loved the Source combination of lifestyle, music and politics. And I always aspired to doing the UK version. So it was a bit of that, and just realising that creatives aren't getting the same shine, the same headline space as they would have in, you know, our own publications. So I thought, let me do something like that. And then as I evolved the idea, it turned into this kind of like IMDb thing with an editorial stuff around it. So that's kind of it wasn't necessarily about getting into film journalism like that, because that actually was a tack on.
Sure.
The whole core of the British Blacklist is the database.
Tell me about some of the challenges that you had when you were setting up the British Blacklist, and, you know, seeing that there wasn't the platform for Black creatives in this country to kind of, to publicise their work. What were some of the challenges you faced when you were trying to set this platform up?
To be honest, it was really smooth setting it up, because I think I had real passion and fire to do it. It was just something like, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about it. It's just, I worked all hours of the night getting it together. So it was actually fun. So it wasn't a struggle putting it all together. It was just researching all the creatives that I wanted to feature in the database and find a way to populate them, find someone to help me with a WordPress website, and then have it up and running. Where it became a struggle was that the response to it was overwhelming. And in the end, trying to juggle a day job at the BBC and run this platform is what became the issue.
It's funny that you mentioned that actually, you know, it's the success of it is the challenge, as opposed to, like, you know, not enough people seeing it. That's really interesting. You don't really hear too much about that. So how important was, you know, finding, you know, fellow collaborators to work with and, you know, take them on this journey with you? How important was it to find those people that could do that?
You know, because I hadn't done this before and had given it no thought, I just thought I was going to launch it and see what happens. I didn't think about collaborators per se, because I suppose I didn't understand how someone would collaborate in those days.
Right.
It was really early stages, so it's just like, I've launched this thing, it's got to work. That's about it. So it was more actually about the talent that I featured on the database, that I wanted to engage with it and really understand that this is a resource for them and respect it. And for audience, like, you know, if I was take myself out of the industry and I wanted to go on this website and I could see all this information about some of the stars that I was a fan of. So I just wanted it to be really robust. So the collaborators, I guess, would have been the audience and the talent who populated the database. When it came to like organizations and things like that, that's when it was more conversations about getting access to the talent. So when it came to film junkets and theatre, like doing reviews and stuff like that, that's when I had to, it wasn't necessarily collaboration, it's about building relationships. That's when it became more important to establish the British Blacklist as a platform that you can trust and interact with, and we'll deliver some really quality content.
And, you know, you spoke about balancing the British Blacklist, you know, as it was growing with a full-time job. What was the moment where you were just like, right, I need to just dive into this head first and just, you know, give it all of my time and attention? Do you remember that tipping point, and can you talk us through that experience?
Yeah, my tipping point was just, I started to become a really crappy BBC employee, because don't tell anybody, but I'd literally go into work and I would clear my to-do list in the BBC. I would do that. It wasn't that bad, but I just couldn't concentrate. Everything was like British Blacklist. In the end, like, I couldn't focus because everything was about, I had loads of emails. Everything was going on for British Blacklist. And so trying to focus on someone else's diary and someone else's dream, as it were, in a department that wasn't about what I wanted to do. It was a great place to work, but it wasn't my vision. And especially when you have your own dream and your own business, it's really hard to dedicate your energy to something else that's nothing to do with what you want to do. So in the end, I was like, okay, let's just make it fair for everyone. I'll leave, I'll take redundancy. And so that's what I did.
Yeah, I think that's so true. When, you know, what I used to do, I can say it now, is I used to work from home and just take all of my meetings, or, you know, there's times when I was like at work at my desk and I was like, oh, I'm just going to go meet a client, and I'd actually go to the other side of town to go and have a conversation with someone that lasted 10 minutes and then spend an hour getting back to my desk. So you just end up, it just consumes you. I completely get that, definitely. If you wanted to start up like an organisation like the British Blacklist, not necessarily like a direct comparison, but if it was something sort of all-encompassing like the British Blacklist, what kind of qualities would someone need to be able, would you say that someone will need to really get something like this off the ground?
I definitely need to be organised. I think that's my weakest point, is organisation and scheduling the day and managing the time efficiently, because there's a lot to take on, because the British Blacklist it's a couple of components. The database, even though it's down and being rebuilt right now, there's a database, there's then the editorial content, and then there's the live events. So it just has to be really organised, and you have to know what's going on, really understand the industry that you're representing, because there's no point in saying you're going to give the latest news and you don't know what's going on in the industry. So you really have to know the worlds that you're representing or talking about. And I'd say, yeah, building relationships, professionalism. One of my concerns about the British Blacklist was that it would be trusted and respected, because I think being a Black organisation, it's going to be judged, and it will be, and it was judged for its quality and delivery. And we get extra scrutinised because, you know, where's this Black platform come from? Trying to get into spaces that usually aren't afforded to Black platforms. And also our own community as well. We can, because we're so used to being on the back foot and things not running smoothly because of lack of finances or industry support, we can be overly skeptical about new Black projects that come out. So I wanted to make sure that my audience weren't turned off by any kind of ridiculous behaviour on my part. So I had to make sure that the brand was strong and trustworthy and efficient and professional. So those are the kind of skills you need. You need to respect your audience, and respect the people that you collaborate with and interact with, because then they'll respect you back, and it's a different level of engagement that you get.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about, you know, navigating a space, you know, the film, TV industries, the media industry, as it were, as a Black woman. You know, as we know, this, you know, that particular space, as with a lot of spaces, are predominantly white. So can you tell us about challenges that you've had, you know, being, you know, Black in a space like that? I mean, any challenges that you want to mention?
I've not really thought about it in those terms, because I'm kind of used to being in spaces. I mean, I went to schools which were predominantly white and stuff like that. So even though I've been aware of being a Black woman for various different situations and reasons, it didn't stop me from wanting to get into this. And I never thought, well, I couldn't do this, or maybe my colour or my gender would hold me back. What it was more about was the fact that I was doing something that was about Black people in a space that they had to kind of break through. Everyone has to break through. So I didn't think what I was doing wasn't allowed.
Yeah.
So I didn't have those reservations, but it was more about, like I said, making sure the brand was respected so that it could compete with its with the people in its space, with the more mainstream and I suppose white-owned publications and platforms in this space. So it was always making sure that as a Black project, it could compete in the same way that other respected platforms similar to my like IMDb, like Screen International, like Variety, just occupying the space rightfully and being respected. So it wasn't about me being my gender or me personally. It was about the fact that it's a Black project. So overall, those are my kind of watchful reservations.
So you've been going for 8 years. What's been the proudest moment? What can you sort of look back at and just think, yeah, that was a really special time?
I'm not saying I don't have any proud moments, of course I do. But there's so many, I don't know, I think because I'm quite laid back and I don't get overly excited about things, I take every milestone as okay, you've done that, well done, now you've got the next thing to do. And I feel like I'm still not there yet where I want British Blacklist to be. So I'm grateful for every moment. I think, you know what my proudest moment is? It isn't one, it's my moments. Whenever I see a creative who's like, oh my God, thank you for featuring us, or you gave me our first interview, or just someone mentions the British Blacklist in conversation.
One of the moments that I saw for you that I was really happy about was Oscars night, probably about 2 years ago. And I think, so one of the hosts was interviewing Daniel Kaluuya on the red carpet, and they went to a live shot of us in London, and obviously you were at the front of the crowd, and he was like, that's the queer. And I was like, that for me, like seeing that recognition, like seeing him being nominated for an Oscar and him taking the time to recognize you and sort of calling you out was like, for me, I was like, wow, that was such an incredible moment. So for me, that always sticks like really like sharply in my mind.
Yeah, to be honest, there's so many little moments that I forget, not in a disrespectful way, or a big-headed way, just because there are so many moments that I value, and that was definitely one of them. And it was just I got so many views just on a social media tip. It was just, yeah, that was a moment.
Yeah.
Having Daniel shout us out, and it's just, and that's what I mean when I say when talent. I say talent because I'm speaking very corporate industry, but when creatives and, you know, the actors, the directors, the writers, and all that stuff, when they're in spaces and they mention the British Blacklist, and I'm like, well, that's the effect I want it to have, because I want people to recognise it as a platform that is for them and is talking about them, and I want them to be as excited to be mentioned or featured on the British Blacklist as they would be for something like, you know, the Vogues, the Varieties, the Screen Internationals, the Deadlines, and all those type of things. So I want it to be something that the creatives that I appreciate, love, and celebrate, that they feel the same way about it. So those are my proudest moments, when especially people who are recognised as someone like Daniel Kaluuya and stuff like that, are like, yeah, we recognise the British Blacklist, and it's what it's done so far.
And then final question, thank you so much for taking the time out and you know, talking to us at the film studio for this, you know, this great conversation. I wanted to ask you, what are some of the pieces of advice you'd give someone who wanted to explore a career in film journalism and film marketing? And what are some of the pieces of advice you might give?
I think just do it. I think you've got to. I think it's so easy now to. It's not easy, but it's so easy to get started. You can start a blog. There are so many platforms that you can create yourself a blog page, a website, all that stuff. It's really easy to do that, and they have them tailored to, you know, film journalism style, so you can get the look and feel quite easily. And then it is about watching loads of things, also knowing what you like, because you don't have to be a journalist that reviews everything. You really don't. What's actually quite special is if you have a preferred genre, because then you can really immerse yourself in it and really know it. And that's what you need to do. Know what you're reviewing, and be able to reference other films and stuff and other filmmakers and things like that. So just really know what you're reviewing, understand what you're reviewing. I really think people who want to be journalists and haven't done it before, to find some sort of journalism course. It gives you the structure and the information of how to do things properly. And you would never that's patronising, you would never know how different things are for tabloid writing, for different platforms have different styles and what expectations of how you write. And there's a difference between trying to write a review in 200 words to having a long form review. So you've got to understand who you are as a writer and find your voice, because some are quite generic and there's no voice to their review. Others, you know, it's the person, you can really hear the journalist talking, and people kind of fall in love with reviewers because of their personality that comes through. So I think it's always writing, watch lots of films, and then really read loads of other reviews from different platforms to kind of understand those different styles. And that's for, like, especially if you can't get onto a course. You don't have to, but it's just that formal training is also always helpful. But there are loads of ways of building up your craft, and then it is just hitting up publications to see if you can get any intern work or something like that. And then there is, you know, going to film festivals and start making friends with like publicists and things like that, and saying, hey, look, I've got a blog, and you know, the whole social media thing, build your social media and your following. So there's all those kind of bog standard things that you need to do. So that's pretty much it. It's just really know your craft as best you can.
Brilliant. Well, Akua, nothing else to say, but thank you so much for being part of the film studio. How can people find out more about the British Blacklist?
You can find the British Blacklist at thebritishblacklist.co.uk, Facebook, The British Blacklist, Instagram, The British Blacklist, and Twitter is at Brit Blacklist, because I couldn't get all the letters in, so yeah.
Thank you so much.
And that's it.